Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk and I'm Heidi Smith. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in the United Kingdom, and today I thought I'd make a bit of a gift box, and this is a variation on a project that has been copied many times of mine, which is the winged cube box. And I thought it was about time for it to have a revamp, and what better way than when I saw these fabulous Guilan shells. Now, I'm not actually a great fan of the original praline ones, but the lovely thing about these is they're just the seahorses, and they are a whole range of flavours, from caramels to coffee to all sorts of other things. And the box wasn't very inspiring, you know, kind of, it was fine. But I thought, you know what, I could do something far more exciting with that. So this is what I've got. And we've got a bit of a magnet closure going on. Inside you see the shells and the base is lined. Hopefully you can see that, which means that when they've eaten the recipient has eaten their chocolates, then they can use it to keep little sort of keepsakes in, or maybe some shells, because I just love this stamp set. It is the beautiful Friends Are Like Seashells one, and as you can see, Friends Are Like Seashells, you collect them along the way. Lovely sentiment, but it's also got some other ones in there. Happy birthday to my beautiful friend, you're unique and completely amazing. All sorts of ones which were really lovely for friendship. It's a fabulous one that comes with an embossing folder as well. We've got the big die that goes through and gets embossed. Beautiful shells, and I'm just using just a few of these shells on this project. And you're probably thinking, oh gosh, is that the old paper that went with it when it was launched? But no, it isn't. It's actually part of the part of the Waves of the Ocean paper, because although on the one side you have got these beautiful blues and greens, as you can see here, and these are all photographs of hand poured acrylics, so those are your 6 designs on the front. But if you turn, which are all very blue, but they're quite dark, but you turn them over and you have got the most beautiful paler shades with Coastal Cabana, sort of pool party, the lighter shades. This is the lovely Blushing Bride Calypso Coral, and Calypso Coral on its own isn't a colour that I would normally use, but with the Blushing Bride I love it. We've got Daffodil Delight and Calypso Coral, not a colour range I'd have normally put together, and then we've got again Daffodil Delight. Now these are all 12 by 12 papers. They are only available until while stocks last, until the beginning of May. So if you love the papers, get yourself some. Fabulous for scrapbooking, for memory keeping. I've got a couple more projects coming up with using the papers as well, so do subscribe if you're not already. So other things I've used the beautiful shapes. Beautiful Shapes has in it these lovely hexagons, and I've actually only used 2 of the hexagons, and I've hand cut that sort of little layer just to give it a bit of an edge. But you've got circles and hexagons, and we've got some new ones coming up that would go wonderfully with these. Okay, so this is, well, as I go through the project I'll talk it through, but the lid is sized to come from get my words out, from a sheet of UK A4, so that's metric, but for those of you who are working in Imperial, then I will tell you how to create the box lid from that as well. You can see here, say it just holds closed. You could add a ribbon if you wanted, but I just thought a magnet was perfect for this. So let's get started. So as I don't normally use yellow, I thought it's about time I did. So that's what I'm going to do. Other thing to note, the box is lined. You'll see it when I make this one, but I've actually put a lining on the inside as well, so it really finishes it off nicely. Although it's been a lovely day yesterday, today's a little bit darker, so apologies that it's a bit dark. But first of all, let's do our... I'm going to cut my DSP, and the reason for that is I want to make sure I have got some spare bits to do my stamping on. So my DSP is actually going to be... Right, things you're going to need: a bit of scrap paper. I suggest you make yourself a template like this out of some scrap paper. I'll be referring to mine as we go along. So my DSP, first of all, I'm going for 8 by 8 centimetres by... First of all, I'm going to do a 4.8 and I want 2 of those. Like so. And you're going to cut 1 on the diagonal this way. So top left to bottom right. There we go. And 1 top right to bottom left. And all become clear. And we do that. So that's our DSP for the side panels. I wanted a piece that is 8.8 by 8.8. Like so. And I'm going to cut that in half diagonally. And just a reminder, when you're cutting things in half diagonally, if you're going into a point, start in the middle, go up and down so you don't squash your points. There we go. And then I'm going to want just a scrap, so I will need to cut into my bigger piece for that. So let's get going. I'm actually going to use, I might actually use some of my, something stronger. I think I'm going to pop a bit of Mango Melody. So this is Daffodil Delight, but you want something that's going to stand out on this. So I'm actually going to use my Mango Melody. Let's see how that looks. Yes, actually that's good. It sort of picks up on that colour and gives us something slightly stronger. Now I should be really ought to be using my Stampin' Pierce mat for this, because it would make life easier to get a good impression. But because I'm on a pad of paper, it's not quite so important. So I'm just going to trim those. So, okay, and while I've got my ink out, while we're doing some stamping, I'm going to grab my Daffodil Delight, put my ink pad away properly, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment. So I'm just going to line it up here. That one's got a couple of ink smuts on. Here we go. Getting inky. And what I'm doing is, with that sentiment, I'm lining that up across the middle. So hopefully, oh yes, I probably could have gone just squidged it across a tiny bit for that, friends, but I'm sure that'll be fine. So I'll pop my stamps to one side. Now these those particular images come with dies that cut them out, but actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand cut them. I saw a demonstrator do this with these shells the other day, and it just made such a difference, because if you look, there's a white edge around them. I just think it makes it stand out that little bit when you're using DSP. So I'm just coming round and I'm kind of cutting on that line where I've stamped. So I'm not cutting, I'm sort of, if you know, I'm not cutting on the outside of it. So I'm just coming in like this. And again, just, don't need to tell you this, but you know, I keep my scissors pretty straight and moving the paper, particularly where we've got little indents on this as well. And very simple. Obviously, if you haven't got the dies, then you could just cut these out and then cut around, add them to white and then cut around them. That would be another way to get the effect. Obviously not everybody has die cutting machines if you're starting out, but don't feel it stops you, you know, creating. Although a lot of the dies now kind of give you extra accents rather than just cutting out the stamped images, you can still get lots of variation, particularly if you buy some of our sprig punches. Now some of those, I will say, they are, we're having some retire, quite a few punches retire. Obviously punches take up quite a bit of space, they're quite weighty, they are convenient though, and I still have my circle punches and I tend to use those on a lot of occasions, but there are lots of times you can't use a punch. It's more limiting. So, you know, each has their own purpose. But I would say if you haven't got a die cutting machine, now is the time to kind of pick up some of those little foliage punches, just so that you've got that as an extra option for you to embellish your projects. So there we go. There's oh gosh, I've done all 3 of those, whittering on like that's surprising how time flies. So I'm going to add those to my my basic white shapes. As I say, I'd cut those out already. I didn't think you'd mind me sort of hopping ahead with that. Now, there is an orientation to this, and I always forget which way it is. So you kind of just turn it around. There's one which is like a sharper angle than the others. Have I got it that right? Not quite. So it must be that one. Like the sharpest V is at the bottom, I think. Yes. So you can see this sharp V here matches up with this sharp V there. So once you've got it oriented, you can then add it on. And the shell, just add a little bit. And the great thing is that those can be just sitting to one side, drying while I do the rest. So I'm going to do some Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to use So Saffron with it rather than picking up on the pinks, just kind of give a tone on tone effect, and then you can let me know which one you prefer. I'm going to make the box out of So Saffron, a paler one, and then I'm going to do the lid out of the Daffodil Delight. So what I do need to do is cut some die shapes. I've forgotten I'm going to do those. So in terms of the lid, or even, yes, the lid. So I said about the lid. So what you can do this in 2 ways. You can either cut 2 pieces that are 14.2 by 14.2, or you can cut a long piece and then cut it in half. I found this was a better way for me because it meant I kind of orientated it correctly. So that's what I'm going to do. So first of all, I'm going to cut my card to 14.2 centimetres. And I'm going to trim it down to 28.4, which is why I said if you're in the US and you've got that shorter cardstock, you'll either need to use 12 by 12 or you can do it by cutting 2 separate pieces. And as long as you make yourself a template, you will be fine. On the short side, you're going to score at 5.1 centimetres. And you're going to put that short section at the top. Then I'm going to score at 9.1. At 14.2, at 19.3, and that's all of our scoring done in terms of the straight scoring. We're then going to be doing some diagonal scoring. So I'm going to actually reinforce these creases, and what I'm going to do is pop some little marks on some of these just to make it easier for you to see what I'm lining up. So I'm going to use an erasable pen, and I'm just going to put a little mark on this point here, on these points, down here, which you can't see because that was really rubbish of me, and here. Okay, and yes, on the end here. So that's just to help me, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on that top left corner, and I'm going to score diagonally across the first section. And I'm going to do the same at the opposite end. So I'm going to score diagonally across there. Move those out of the way. Okay, so you're just lining up those 2 points in the track that you can see down the middle of and scoring. I'm going to turn and I'm going to score these 2 big diagonals. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move that across by about 1 centimetre, and I'm going to cut. So that scrap gets cut out of the way. I'm going to do the same on this side. So mirror image. Score. And then just line that up, say about 1 centimetre. And say, it don't have to be a centimetre, you can do it further, but you'll just need to make sure that you've trimmed on either end. So there we go. We're starting to get some shapes going on. Now we're actually going to cut in half on some diagonals. So on this one, you're going to be cutting. So you're lining up this top corner and you're going to cut down to the middle there. So just keep checking. And do the same on the top. So again, line up those dots. That's going to cut out that little V. And then we're going to cut these ones. Okay. So that's that one done. And I'm going to do the same on this one. So you will end up with two pieces that are mirror images of each other. So we've got score lines here, as you can see, like so. Okay. So now we've done that, there's a little bit of, tiny bit of scissor trimming. Really burnish that well. And this diagonal as well. And we're going to add some adhesive to that. And while it's flat, I'm also going to add my DSP to it as well that we cut at the start. So first of all, I'm going to come in with my snips, and I'm just going to take an extra little bit off those two corners. That's just so that they don't get in the way of the mechanism once we've done it. And I'm going to add my DSP, but before that I'm just going to erase those little marks. So you'll see in a moment why we've done what we've done with our two rectangles. So we're going to add the DSP here, and you'll see that our two rectangles create our panels like so, because obviously that cut in half it's that one comes down to this and vice versa. So I'm going to do some gluing. So now those are being glued in place, what we need to do is cut this tab here. So I'm going to cut up the score line, and I'm just going to take a little notch out. Again, that'll just help us create a really nice corner on that. So the same again, so up that score line and just take a slight notch out as well. And now we can glue those in place. I'm using my Seal Plus here. You want a really strong join on these because obviously they're kind of like a moving part. Or what I'm also going to do is add some seal to that edge there. So I'm going to do that flat piece first. It makes it easier to burnish, and then I'm going to create my corner just by lining up that straight edge with the score line to create one of those. Do the same again. And just add that Seal Plus into there. Again, just fold that corner up to meet. So those are going to be our two pieces that are going to meet around our box. So now what we need to do is create our basic box. So this is a reinforced box, and I say what I've done is I'm actually reinforcing the top edge on this one, and I'm also adding a liner to it as well. So in terms of the size of the box, this is 21 by 21, and I'm going to score at 1 6 centimetres on all 4 sides. I'm just going to do my ones. And the reason I'm doing a lining is because obviously you can't, without using sort of a whole sheet of 12 by 12, it would be difficult to get a box where that complete flap would drop down. So the easier way to do this is to create a lining to go in it as well. So that's my box base. My lining, you want 2 pieces, and one of them will come off the from where you've actually trimmed that down, and it's 5.8 centimetres wide by 18.6, and you're going to score that short edge at 1 centimetre, and then on the long edge start with the short bit at the top. You're going to score at 8.8 and at 17.6. Had to check that for a moment there. 17.6. So it's just giving a centimetre on the end here. So you want 2 of those. So I've created another one already. And you're just going to go in and again burnish really well. Oh, and what I did forget, I've forgotten to cut a piece for the lining of my DSP, so we'll need to do that in a moment. Or obviously you could use a piece of So Saffron if you wanted to, if you didn't want to use your DSP. What you're going to do though is you're going to fold it and cut that corner, and you want to come at a 45 degree angle on that. On this one you want to come across, not quite straight, and just take the top off as well. So this one on the bottom edge, those all need to be kind of at least 45 degrees so that they don't foul on each other. And then on this tab obviously it's less. So you've got 2 of those. You're then going to reinforce the score lines on your box. And this will be a standard reinforced box when we come to doing our trimming. So, and you're going to cut away, slight angle, all the way along, all the way down, and again. So cutting those outer 3 rectangles from each corner. Last one, again, just that. Don't forget to just cut it at a slight angle on that middle section, because that's going to help ensure that it just fits in really nicely. And then you're going to cut straight down on that left hand edge and take a sort of notch out. I find you could do this as you go around. I just find it easier to kind of go and do it afterwards. That way I remember to sort of turn it and always do that, for me, that left hand score line straight. And final one, straight down. As I say, this is kind of real time. I guess you could always scrub, fast forward if you don't want to watch me doing the cutting. Right, okay. So now we've done that, we're going to do some gluing. So again, we're going to be using our Seal Plus, a strip on the edge, on the inner of the tab, and along that short piece. I'm going to put that a bit closer to the edge. There we go, that's better. I think this one's, I'm hoping this is going to last till the end of this project because it's looking a little empty. I suppose what I could do, thinking about it actually, is I could actually just run that along that inside edge. Once you've done that, we're going to go around and create our box. So straight edge to straight edge on all 4 corners. And the last one. And then we're going to fold those edges over. So obviously that neatens the top of the box, it strengthens it as well, and what it does is it keeps those tabs in place. So just give them a really good burnish down. That's why I don't do it on that, because otherwise you end up with not having any adhesive where you've put the tab. So I'm just going to add a little wet glue to the inside there. I knew there was a reason. Just didn't occur to me at that precise moment. Okay. The good news is though, because I've created these layers to go in, we can cover that up anyway, and it will. Oh yes, look, just about finished. So we're back to using a bit of wet glue. So I'm just going to add these, join these 2 pieces together. I'm just going to double check, obviously, that that's going to, you'll need to bow those in slightly. That's going to create, yeah, that'll be fine. And what I will do is suggest you use wet glue for this stage. So I'm going to glue this. And then I'm going to put some wet glue. Difficult. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to glue it the correct way, which is this way, because you don't want any seams showing. So you're folding it back on itself. Oh dear, that was almost a disaster. So that's how you want it. You want those score lines on the inside. So fold them back on themselves. So where we've glued those, obviously on the outside, that's going to go on the edge of the box. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to run some glue down on the bottom of my box. Yep, just all the way down there. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put some on the outer edge of each side. So I'm going to kind of at the top, because what I don't want to do is kind of put it on the liner and for that then to kind of squidge out on the top section, if that makes sense. So I'm sort of putting it on the top there, hopefully you can see that. And just on that top edge, I've done all 4 sides, yes. So I've got plenty of adhesive in there. Just squeeze those in slightly. It will be a snug fit, but as you push that in, it will go down and then you can pop that in. Now, as I said, what you want to do now is you can put some DSP in the bottom there. But there's our really neat lining, pushed well down. And to line it, yeah, I think that'll probably work. I don't know whether that'll leave me enough. Ooh, possibly. I'll get some DSP. Here we go. So, same as the, just want it to be slightly smaller. So you want it to be sort of round about 8.6. thereabouts. Because we're doing 8 point, we did 8.8, so I think we want to do about 8.6 on this, and I'm going to cut it off this piece where I've already cut a chunk off the bottom. So about 8.6. There we go. And that will just sit in the bottom there. Obviously you can glue that in place. Again, if you add the glue to the bottom, you don't want to come right up to the sides, but that will also help strengthen it as well. There we go. And all remains now is for us to finish our closures. So where you've got these two panels, you want to sort of fold those out, and those are going to glue onto the sides here. So that's where we want our adhesive. I'm just going to use my seal for the moment. I will come back in once I've refilled my Seal Plus. And the way I recommend it is you pop your lid on the top and then fit that down. That just makes it a little easier. And you get a really nice fit, and you want to fit this again, you can see, just at the other side. So you've got that deep Daffodil Delight, and then you've got your lid coming together nicely on the top there. So now we can do our other little pieces to finish it off. So I've got a layer of my Daffodil Delight. I'm going to add my stamped panel onto some So Saffron. And this is where I said I like the, I don't like dropping glue on things. All I'm doing is I'm just creating a narrow border on this. Whilst I quite like the border between them, I just wanted something a little bit more, just to almost add a little sort of extra frame so that I could pop it up and create just a little bit more sort of dimension. So as you can see, I'm just coming quite close in and being a regular sort of shape. That works really well. So the next stage is to fit our label, and what I would recommend here is the use of a good old ruler and a little bit of marking. So all I'm going to do is just take either a pen or a pencil and kind of do a slight line there. And again, you can erase these afterwards, but that is going to help tremendously. You want to put glue on the left hand side of this, and I would recommend wet glue for that as well. So I'm just going to pop that, and I'm lining up there so we're just getting it nicely together. And then give that a good squeeze. This is one where normally I would be recommending using your Stampin' Seal Plus, because you don't actually want it to move around. There we go. Okay. So while that is drying on there, I'm just going to grab the eraser and take that mark off. Oh, look at that. I've even done it on the wrong one. Okay. Ah! Oh dear. Okay. Well, that's going to have to go on up on dimensionals now. So don't even have to worry about which side it is. So let's try again. So taking your shape and putting it in the middle. I wonder why I've got so much space. Just lining those up. There we go. Okay. That might have been easier to do while it was flat. But you know, we'll make it work. while that is drying, now we can add some dimensionals. Luckily, we're going to pop this up on dimensionals anyway. Not there. Right, dimensionals. So you want your dimensionals on this, sort of in the middle, leaving a little bit of a gap on this left-hand edge. And that's so that when you pop it on, you've got space to put your sand dollar in place. So just pop that like so. My sand dollar, I'm just going to pop dimensional on under one edge, and that is then going to tuck underneath, and that covers up our mark that we made. Grab yourself a mini dimensional or a piece of dimensional and pop it under one of your corners of your starfish, and just work out which of the two, so it's these two here, are going to need a little adhesive on. And then pop a little adhesive just on the back of here. And all that remains is for us to add our magnets. So with the magnets, I'm using the little neodymium ones, which are the really super strong ones. You watch, there we go. So what I want to do is actually put one underneath here. So I'm going to use a glue dot. So glue dot onto your magnet. And I'm going to put it under this sort of left-hand edge here. So it just comes in just under there. Don't press it down hard yet. Add your second magnet and just make sure that that's going to close, which it is. Pinch it in place. Pick up your second glue dot. So it's there sitting on the top. Close your lid and just tap it. And that should be enough to pick it up, as you can see, and give it a good squeeze. Now if you want to, you could then put another hexagon on the inside there if you wanted to cover that up. It will still work fine. You can leave it exposed like that, but as I say, you can easily cover those up if you want to. And likewise, you could pop some DSP on the inside of those two as well if you wanted to use them long term. But there you have a fun winged cubed wing box. Pop along to my blog if you'd like to purchase any products. Are you team Calypso Coral and Blushing Bride, or are you team So Saffron and Daffodil Delight? Let me know which you prefer. Whichever way, I'm sure you'll enjoy the chocolates. Thanks for watching. Come back and see me again soon. Bye now.